And I have no idea how I got to sniper school. I showed up, team 3 was still in deployment, and they're like, new guy, go to sniper school. Roger that, I will. And for me, you know, I had, I had an awareness of where I stood on the totem pole. I knew I was a new guy. I knew I was smaller stature, and I just wanted to prove myself. I was just so hungry to do a good job. And so I knew sniper school was going to be hard, but I'm like, man, I'll do everything to not fail this and bring this asset to the platoon. And I'm so thankful of whoever it was that allowed me to go to sniper school as a new guy before Team 3 showed up from deployment.
How'd you do in sniper school?
So it's like 3, I don't know how it is now. It's 3 phases. You know, the first phase is like PIC. It's like photographic image capture, where you basically learn how to use an SLR camera to take facial recognition pictures, basically for, SR or special reconnaissance. And that's all geek stuff, like using computers, setting up a network, sending pictures through radio waves. I love that stuff, and that came naturally to me. The second part was scouting, and scouting, you also have to pass you have to get a certain score on the rifle, on the stalking, okay. The stalking and the rifle course, like 200-yard Marine Corps test down at Pendleton. We would have to do, which is a pretty hard test. It's all iron sights, and I had never shot a gun.
I was gonna say, that's why I was asking you this question, because like I already said, most people going to sniper school have at least one deployment, if not 2 or 3. Mm-hmm. And you shoot thousands and thousands of rounds every workup and deployment, so you're improving your skills.
Oh yeah.
But you were coming right out of buds, going to that with with no experience.
Yeah, I mean, you shoot very minimal. Like you don't learn how to be a SEAL in buds. You just learn how to suffer. Yeah. Right? And then you go to SUT and you get a little taste of what it's like to learn some tactics, but you don't really know anything still. And you get to shoot a little bit, but it's not that much. So I didn't have that much. And I didn't grow up in a rural area where I had access to guns. And so I didn't shoot. I had very little shooting experience showing up to sniper school. So that was hard. And actually, if I remember this correctly, there was a point where I almost did not make it through, because you have to get a certain score on the rifle. But something clicked. I mean, if you just stick with the points of performance, front sight focus, body positioning, follow through, breathing, like they work, yeah. Right? And you just, I don't know if it's rounds or just perspective, but eventually things clicked for me. And I started to do actually pretty well in the shooting part. And the stalking was also something I struggled with. But once I learned I just had to geek it out and just kind of dissect what stalking is. And all stalking is, there's really 2 phases of it, right? You have dead space, right? So what dead space is if you have a known observer, you put a piece of earth between you and the observer, line of sight, that person cannot see you. You could have a parade in that lane of dead space, and you could just walk your merry way. Because stalking was a timed evolution, but it was also, you had to get a certain qualification by a certain amount of time. If you had all day, then it'd be a lot easier. And obviously, if you don't have dead space, then you just have to learn the human physiology. It's like the human eye is attracted to movement, especially at night. So if you understand that and just slow your roll, be cautious, be thoughtful of every step you take, every movement, be slow, methodical with your stalking to get to that shooting position, to take that shot, things become a lot easier. And it took me, so that phase was hard, and I think I actually may have almost failed out if I remember correctly, but I was able to get through. And the last portion was the actual just shooting portion, and that came much better for me. I think I learned those points of performance and sticking with that, and I loved the math behind shooting at long range. And people think like, well, how hard is it? You just put a reticle on what you're trying to shoot. I'm like, that's not what a sniper is. You very rarely are shooting by putting your reticle on a target. Like, yeah, sure, if you have the time to dial and click into your windage and your dope, which is another word for elevation, sure, you put your reticle on that, and if that's perfect, great. But in the real world, there's changing winds, there's moving targets, and there are targets of opportunity that are not sighted into your 200 or 300 yards that your scope is at. It might be a target that's 600 yards and you're doped in at 300, or a target that's 100 yards and you're doped in at 300. So you have to learn these math problems. Like, well, if there's a left to right wind, I know that, and I have to aim to the person, to the right side of the person's body. Or maybe it's an extreme wind, so I'm going to be more conservative and aim even further to the left. Or the person is further than I'm doped in, so I'm going to make sure I'm aiming 1 or 2 body lengths higher than the person, right? It's a math problem, and it's an art. So I loved the geeky side of that. So I mean, I was all about it, and I was so happy, and so I felt so privileged to gain that skill set to bring back to my platoon.